A performance control meeting is not for checking the performance, it is for driving action. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we'll talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today we'll be talking about performance meetings. Most of the meetings in a factory, but specifically those that we do to check up on projects, but also to check up on how our lines are running. What are we going to do? Are we making our volumes? Don't we have too many complaints? Stuff like that. In the shift, day, week, month rhythm, those type of things. And also a bit the improvement team meetings and the root cause analysis meetings that come together with them as a sort of a bundle in our control loop. Because the thing is, if you have a meeting, and let us indeed just take that performance meeting for now, that performance control meeting, daily stand-up, the daily operations meeting, those things, they are not about the KPIs. You will increase the efficiency of your performance meetings if you really get it into the minds of everyone there, into the culture of your meeting, that the purpose of a control meeting, a performance control meeting, is to drive action by the people present in the relatively short term to improve tomorrow's performance. You check yesterday's performance only because it informs which actions you will take to make it better today and, more importantly, tomorrow. And that is something else than what I see most daily meetings doing. So when we get that into our heads, and we're going to check the meeting, when we do our daily operations review, our daily stand-up, we see a whole bunch of people there together. What we generally have is a couple of supervisors or maybe department heads. There will definitely be department heads, but are they reporting? Really not always. So quite often it will be the shift supervisors or shop floor team leaders who are doing the reporting, and then there is at least a production manager, maybe a site manager and some department leaders or different specialists. And too often it looks like we're just reporting what happened. We really need to explain what happened in the last couple of shifts or the last day, why we had breakdowns again, why that line didn't make its production, and sort of see how we can then fix the damage that got from there. But that is not driving action, and definitely not driving action by the people who are in that meeting. You see, that's the other critical part. Who is in that performance control meeting? The people who can help improve performance. It's not for checking. It's not for the check type of control. And maybe, my English language friends, you have this problem a bit less, but if you go to the European continent and you get my native tongue of Dutch, or you get German or French, I know for sure, or Russian, you have controleren, controleren, controller, controleren wat. They are all really the check part of the English control. There are different words that actually mean the steering part of control. That might be why it is in the culture to check more than steer, although my experience in on the British Isles has also told me that it is quite often the same over there as well. We are checking what is happening, and we have a bunch of managers in different meetings that just want to understand what happened, explain preferably who is responsible for all of the problems we have, where the problems are, do we sort of understand what the problems are, and then it stops. No, those people who you invite to a performance control meeting, they should be the ones who can help the one who comes with the performance. So generally, that shift supervisor who comes in and tells about the performance in shift, or if this is the daily meeting, they will tell about the last couple of shifts that led up to this day. And then the problems sort of get an action, usually put back on them. And that sounds like, good active management of the actions at the place where they belong. But what then are all those other managers doing in the meeting? Right? So maybe your shift leader indeed came with something that they should have figured out and solved themselves. Send them back with guidance, but send them back with the action. But more likely, if you have a discussion, where is the support? So what is the quality, the technology, the maintenance department going to do to help this? Is the CI team going to take an active role? Are they going to be involved in solving a problem or making some logistics go better? What are the actions that the people in the meeting are going to do in the short run? Now, because of that, when we look at our KPI board, I'm also always looking for that action decision. So a good KPI board shows us a small number of points to focus at. What demands our attention? Because it probably will also require action by the team that is present in the meeting. And if your KPI board shows a lot of trending and a lot of information about all of the lines that you have in your production department, then I need to look through all the graphs and make some calculations and decisions, and it gives me a lot of information, which is nice when you want to say something more about a problem. Is it better or worse than it used to be? Do we see it as a trend? Is it a one-off? All very good questions to ask before setting out with a problem-solving team or root cause analysis or things like that. But having that as your standard view makes it very difficult. Now, we talked about the visual way of doing your KPI boards and your KPI graphs. We say, look, if you do not a trend line, but a number of bars that are green when it's okay, red when it's bad, at least you get a quick indicator that, well, if the rightmost bar is red, we'll probably need to focus here. And that is definitely already better. But what would also be very nice, especially if you have a digital board, so guys, use that. If your organization likes to go digital with the KPI boards, use that technology and don't just copy the physical boards, but go for a sort of a dashboarding thing where you have rules written into the system that will make a line just red if, say, the line speeds or productions and one of them is so low, gets a red light. Then when you click on this, then you get the trending, the top 5 time consumers, the person who was there, all kinds of information, the current actions that are already taken. But the main dashboard that you use in your meeting, the first thing you see, just gives you it's okay, it's probably all okay. This is the one you need to focus on with your meeting. That really helps you drive action in your meeting. So the good red color, or even skip the whole trending and go for this indicator, because that is the main task that your KPIs have at a shorter interval level. So when we're talking about the performance control meetings, and really again the shift and the daily meeting where we just check last days, last week's production and how it went, we are not working on trend analysis. We are not trying to understand our processes. We want to know to act or not. And in fact, on a very short scale, SPC, statistical process control, is exactly that same thing. That graph, the SPC graph, really has only one goal, and that is to tell the operator, do I need to do something with my line? Probably. Or should I just leave it be because it is behaving as expected? If you can get that very simple thing, that do nothing or focus and probably take action into your KPI board, you will be so much more effective. Now, of course, we also have this idea of lagging and leading KPIs, right? The stuff I put here is probably lagging KPIs. Most performance indicators, they are lagging. Action indicators, so did my people do all their cleanings on time? Did they do their preventive maintenance stuff? Those are all leading type of indicators, because you know that if everything is done properly the results will follow. You also know that if it is not done properly, results will at some point be bad. But still, even there, in your performance control meeting, the key thing you want from your KPI board is, do I need to focus on this or not? Now, then another part, really important for driving action through your performance control meeting, is that action board. My first advice, make one very visible action board for the whole meeting. So the whole group that is in the meeting should be co-owner of their action system. But of course, there will be one responsible person for each individual action, right? It's just that when I see the members of the meeting write down in their own notebooks which actions they have, on the one hand, I'm happy that they write it down. If I do not see them write anything down, alarm bells also trigger that probably this action has not been really accepted yet. But if the personal notebooks are the only place where the action is recorded, it becomes way too easy to not really follow up, to not really report on it. Make sure that the actions you set are a group responsibility. The whole group who is in the performance control meeting, they all want to know what happened to what we discussed yesterday. Are we taking the actions we decided to do? So that is also a reason why the who is going to take the action, the responsible person, they should be a member of this group. Only a person who is actually in that meeting can get an action. And the other part, by the way, this can be a role. That is an important part to clarify here. What you will often see, especially with shift leaders, team leaders, that when their shifts shift, you will get a different person, so a different human in the same role. So now somebody else is the shift leader for tomorrow, but they have the same role, the same function and place in that meeting. So anyone who is on the same role in the meeting, they should make sure that they communicate, that they can take actions for each other, that they communicate with each other, and they can give updates on the actions. If today John is the shift leader and he took an action upon himself, and tomorrow Alyssa is the shift leader because the shift pattern changed a little bit, I expect them to fully be aware of each other's actions, and Alyssa to report on what John started yesterday and what is hopefully finished today. So that is an understudy or a different person in the same role. They are the same person for this group. I still like putting their name there, not shift leader as SL or something like that, but really the name. And it just means that if the name John is there and today Alyssa is in the meeting, she knows, oh wait, that is basically my role, so I'll have to answer. But another thing where we also see it, depends a little bit on your organization. In some factories, I saw this really as sort of a problem. In other factories, the performance control meeting was a sacred thing. The managers, so those other people in the meeting, they also have replacements. So they cannot always be there. But if you have, let's say, the maintenance team lead present in your daily control meeting, but they cannot be there today. So they send the maintenance planner today. Then that person, far too often, has got no clue at all which actions were on the board for the team lead, which information they are supposed to bring. Maybe they do know that. When they do take an action, they don't tell it to the team lead, who's the regular member of the meeting. That doesn't work. If you have a replacement, an understudy for your role in the meeting, that person speaks for you, should know about your status updates, but also should accept meetings and actions for you. Because what you will then also get is tomorrow, the team lead is back again themselves in person, right? So they are back from some trip and they see an action and say, but I don't agree to that. No, you go fix it with your maintenance planner colleague that you send to the meeting. This is something you have a role. So the who is not fully a person. It is a role, but put the name here. Make them responsible for solving that. Now the other part, and we've talked about it a little bit in one or two previous videos, but I'll repeat it again. The when, so the deadlines, the length of actions that you want from your control meetings, it should be relatively short. And in fact, there is a specific nice period for that is optimal. And it is 2 to 3 times the interval of the meeting itself. So if we are talking about a daily meeting, most of the actions should take about 2 to 3 days. Actions that can be done the same day or so quickly that tomorrow we can already get them off the list, a couple of them is fine. But if almost all of our actions are that short, so they can all be done today, probably the shift meeting could have done this. Probably. Right? So in an organization where the actions tend to only have one time the interval between meetings, often that is a sign that actions are put to a too high level. They are escalated too high up your control pyramid. They probably should have been tackled by one level closer to the shop floor. But what I see much more often is that we put actions on there that are way longer than 3 times the interval. So a shift meeting. We've got 3 shifts a day. So basically they should plan things that are done within a day or so. And they plan tasks that take weeks to do. Design a new training system for the new line. No. The action is to try and get that action onto a controlled project or action plan of the training department or the CI department, whoever works with that. Or replace these gaskets. So order and plan maintenance and then replace these gaskets. That is almost certainly an action that belongs in your maintenance planning system, not on your shift or your daily control board. In fact, I don't even think that they should be on a weekly performance control board because it's simply not the correct department. But when you see that, when you see actions that are way longer than 3 times the interval of the meeting itself, almost always they are putting sort of placeholder reminders there. They're putting actions that are too big for their own team onto their action list. And they will get a whole list of things to check. And nothing seems to be moving. It saps morale. It is not at the correct level. This is, however, quite often a sign of little trust in that the other system, where it should be, is actually working. So if your production organization doesn't have the trust that your maintenance organization will order and install and really finish that gasket change when you just put it as a work order into their system, then, or they do not communicate at all about the progress, then your operation, your production crew tends to put it on their own action lists. So if you see that as a CI specialist or any manager, if you see that happening, check what is actually going on with the system where it should be. And a good indicator, as I said, 2 to 3 times the frequency of the meeting. That is a great action length. Too short, probably a bit escalated, a bit too high. Too long, they're probably not putting direct actions on it. And again, that means we are not driving action from the participants of your performance control meeting. Because that meeting is not there to change the organization or to completely do a root cause analysis. It is there so that you can get that crew that you have there who are responsible for that performance to act and improve today and tomorrow's performance. This therefore also goes for week management meetings. I see that, and then I mean weekly management meetings. Well, they might also be week, but I see that happening quite often, that on a weekly rhythm, you are checking the performance of last week, which by itself is very good. You do that with the site management team or the operations management team. And then I see a lot of trending and a lot of information. And then a lot also of information where the answer is, team lead has it covered. This is, oh yeah, we completely dove into the problem and now we know that it is ABC. And yeah, so we're really struggling with that, and we are absolutely aware of what the problem is. And it stops. So if we're discussing this, what is the purpose? To inform each other. Do that in a strategy meeting, or better, just do it by newsletter. Also, a weekly performance control meeting. It's about getting that group, in this case, the management team, the site leadership team, get action from them. And preferably get action from others in that group. So again, if it is the production manager who comes and reports on failing performance in the production department, either it is not an action for you because it is all under control, or you discuss it a bit more, because what you actually need is the chief technologist to also take action, to get that support on board, or to get a decision from quality, production and finance together in that meeting. It's a good platform to have a quick discussion, make a decision, this is what we're going to do. But if it is just reporting your poor performance and that you have an action plan, and then one or two others put an extra action on you that you have to investigate it and improve it before next week, it is very common, but it doesn't really help your organization, or does it? So keep those things in mind. The team that is in the performance control meeting, it's about them taking action. For that, you want a dashboard, a KPI board, that tells you where you need to focus your attention, if you need to pay attention to any part of your production or your organization at all, because probably that is where you need to define actions. Actions that you do with this group, and you do it rather quickly. 2 to 3 intervals of your meeting is ideal. So I hope that that helps you to drive the effectiveness of your performance control and get the discussion rolling a bit within your performance control meetings. What are you really doing? How can you make those meetings more effective? If you did like it, don't forget to hit that like button. Let me know. And if you have any other questions on KPI boards, meetings, please drop me a comment. Give me a question, an idea for future videos and things that you struggle with, or maybe just a bit of feedback on how this is organized within your organization. For now, I wish you the best of luck in your action management. And as always, don't forget to enjoy the continuous improvement journey.